Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, for having us here. We were here last year to present our project. This is basically a status update of where we are, what we're trying to accomplish. The invitation, I think, to present what's going on in the Mediterranean, what's going on in the South, is an important opportunity for us to share what our vision is for the development of CCS as part of a overall phenomenon in Europe right now, and how we're trying to contribute from the South to this process, right? So, stop me if you've heard this before, right? It's not all fine. And when I start presenting a little bit about who we are, what we're trying to accomplish, this is at the crux of why we're here. And when I say we, I mean Carboncause, the platform that we're developing. Everyone that's on this team is here because we have a drive to do something about climate change. And so as we approach this project, it really is to harmonize industry with what nature is calling us and telling us that it needs. How we can be in balance without destroying, without killing industry. In particular, our focus is the hard-to-abate industry, and we'll get into that a little bit in the presentation. So who we are, the platform that is behind this project is the renewable energy. We're 100% renewable. Nextwell founded Synetics. They've developed and constructed over 9 gigawatts of photovoltaic around the world. At some point, they branched out and went to Spain. Spain, as you know, is one of the leaders in the European Union in development, along with Germany, the Netherlands of PV. So it was a natural selection to go to Spain as a PV company, where now they've developed over 1.8, about 2 gigawatts of photovoltaic capacity, and called me at some point to see if we could actually go into the CCS business, which is the conversation we're having today. So why? We see an enormous potential and impact way beyond what can be accomplished with PV through CCS in terms of mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions. A little bit of the journey. We started in 2020. The call was received in February of 2020, and I landed in Spain the day they declared the state of emergency on March 14th, 2020, and that's how this party got started at CCS. And it was a very interesting welcome to this project, and obviously it was a sign of things to come. As more and more layers of this industry come into focus, having worked and developing this project, I can assure you that this was good training for me to get into this project. When we were selecting the site to move forward, or this initial site and how we got here, our first stop was with Paula in Ijme in February during my first trip. And we had access to all the legacy data that was in the arsenal of the survey in Ijme. And we were looking at all of the sites that were in the south, because as a PV company, our objective is how can we harness, how can we produce a circular project? In other words, the idea was always to power all of the installations with our PV capacity so that even the operations were carbon neutral. And that's still a focus that we have moving into this project. So we looked at a lot of projects in the south. Eventually, we located this site in Murcia, and I'll get into that project, why it's important to us, how we got there. Want to share the vision of us expanding. In other words, while our purpose is to develop this site, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. As you guys have already mentioned in your presentations, as you look at the enormous risk from a technical perspective, from a societal perspective, from even just an investment perspective, there are many points where this project could go south. right? So we can't put all of our eggs in one basket. And we're already looking at additional sites in Spain, and we're beginning to permit those sites. The Murcia site was selected because there was significant legacy data that reduced the risk of failure, in our view, from our technical director perspective. It had sufficient legacy information. We were able to produce a very extensive pre-feasibility report that gave us a high indication that there was 40 million tons capacity there, which we believe, obviously this is not the 400 plus sites that we're looking at in the north, but it gave us a good opportunity to seize a potential site. In addition, even though Murcia is not talked about significantly as a significant player in the industrial sector, as the Basque region is, for example, there is significant industrial activity in this region. There are cement factories, there's a refinery, there's an access port in the port of Cartagena that we can also take advantage of. And so for us, it was a very promising, it still is a very promising site, and was selected because of this reason, its location, and the information that was available to us at the time. In the process of developing this site, I was very fortunate to come across, and I've had to, and I think this is probably the most important part of this. We've always had to believe that we can accomplish this project, and one of the things that we had to do first was create positive relationships with as many different players in the area. Sintef was a first player that we got involved with. We brought on board a technical director from the Ciuden, which also was involved, and we came across Genesis, Technip, and other marvelous integrators of this project that we put together. The most important piece here that I want to lay down is that the challenge that we have here from a technical perspective is the transportation. In other words, we have a viable site, we have a permit to move forward with the exploration, we have cement factories that are ready to deposit their CO2, but we come across this challenge of how do we get the CO2 to our site. And we're working right now in integrating a trucking solution. We're also working to develop a pipeline. We're also working to develop the ports to accommodate for this transportation. It's a daunting task. This is what we're working on at the time. And this is probably the most important challenge that we have. Also taking into account the societal risk that is very, very real, given the history of CCS, and also a gas project a little bit further to the north, and also the legal framework that we're encountering as well. We'll get into that. So as we talk about the project where it is, we've validated the concept. In other words, we've gained the trust of the regional government of Murcia to give us this permit. It took a while. There was a lot of negotiations. There was a lot of discussions of whether we go through the pilot approach or the commercial approach, right? Because it completely different routes. The limitations, I think everybody here is already understanding when you go through a pilot what the limitations are. From our perspective, the choice to go through a pilot, which was what we've done, gave us the opportunity to work alongside the University of Cartagena, Sintef, and bring together other research-minded organizations into the fold, Erasmus, societal readiness-wise. And we've been able to validate this concept and gain the trust of the regional government. As we get to the next phase, we understand that we need to bring the central government on board, because we're not a research institute. We're a development company, and this needs to come with enough resources, enough revenues for it to stand on its own, right? So we're already having discussions to get our project to a commercial decision, a final investment decision, during this stage. Why is this relevant? We've submitted 2 proposals to Horizon Europe for funding, and we've passed the benchmark, so we get the golf claps of, hey, this looks good, this looks like it's doable, it's passable, it makes sense, but there's no funding behind it. And from a developer perspective, it's a challenge because these projects have significant investment and capital risk on the front end, right? And there's no guarantee whatsoever that this thing's going to fly. So I'm telling you the obvious. Everybody here knows this. I'm sharing my experience with how we got here, and what we're trying to do. So fortunately for us, in this particular site, we found a lot of legacy data. There were extensive 2D campaigns made, and so there is a possibility, and we're working on this right now, that we can do the modeling with this information, and maybe have an exploration well give us, prove that there is the transmissivity, the capacity, the porosity, all the components that are required for the investment decision, without having to run additional 3D seismic campaign and get to that next phase initially. We're having this conversation in the context of bringing in co-investment from our potential cement clients. Those discussions are ongoing now. What we're trying to do is keep this project going with private funding. So what are we looking at? And again, I don't want to bore you with things that you guys already know. Everybody here understands the problems that we're facing. And in Spain, a lot of the work that we have in front of us is really gaining the trust and the belief that we can do this, right? We're having discussions with the central government as we speak, as well as how we can get this transportation network online. Because for us, just proving that the site works, just even getting our clients to sign joint development agreements was fantastic. If we don't get this pipeline in place, then there's no project. So at the same time, we're trying to develop a policy framework. In Spain, the directive is in play, but there's no regulation. So there's uncertainty. There's no clarity in terms of political will to move forward with what's happening in the European Union from the Spanish government. So we're having to build that trust. We're having to visit with them from hydrocarbons to mining, industry, everybody, to bring them online. It's a daunting task. We're assuming this challenge because of slide 1, right? We have to try. We have to move forward. We have to believe that we can do this. Fortunately, through this process, we've been able to find other players that believe that we can do this. And we need to find these disruptive technologies that can help us achieve our project by reducing cost and risk. So right now, that's what we're looking for. How can all of the work all the wonderful research that's happening right now, and all these new development and technologies assist us in reducing risk, not only from a technical perspective, but clearly also from a capital perspective, because we really want to launch this, right? And we don't see it as an isolated project, right? We understand that we're operating, and I need to change the project name from first of a kind to a unique. Obviously, we're not the first of a kind, right? But this for us, I think we really understand that we're part of a big push happening in Europe. We want to be part of this constellation of projects that are occurring. From our perspective, and the sites that we're developing now are inching us closer to that roadmap that's being developed. Our vision is to integrate into that network Our vision is that we can produce the change in Spain that was produced in Denmark recently, for example. For us, it gives us hope that we can accomplish that transition, that with a social engagement program, we can work together with the local communities and the regional governments as we have to develop this project. So we've turned the light back on in Spain, I would like to say. I think everyone here understands there was a pilot project there, 2010. There was a good start. There was a good intention from Spain. We're lighting the way again. Pilot Strategy has been doing significant work in this regard. And so our aim is to bring all of this knowledge and all of this activity into the fold so we can create that change and keep the light on from the south as well. Thank you very much.